Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about Kevin McCarthy, race and representation. We're going to check in with Professor Dr. Jason Nichols to get his interpretation of all that happened last week that led up to the big moment when Kevin McCarthy was elected. Also, let's talk about jobs, crypto, and economic survival. We're going to be checking in with economist Mr. William Spriggs to give us the latest on the numbers for jobs, employment, and what's going on with cryptocurrency and the impact that it has on Black Americans. Later on, we're going to talk about violence and humanity, how the NFL has possibly turned the tide and how it handled player injuries. We're going to be checking in with my guy, Scotty, to get the latest about the aftermath of Damar Hamlin and the fact that the Buffalo Bills player has come back home. And then later on, we're going to have a celebrity interview with Markice Moore of the Stars hit show, BMF, Black Mafia Family. So stay with us. All of that is happening on today's show right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. All right, folks, we got a lot to get to, so let's jump right in. First and foremost, the big news that came over the weekend, and first, happy Monday. But the big news that came across this weekend is, of course, the fact that California Republican Kevin McCarthy has now been elected the new GOP House Speaker. Now, this has come after rounds of votes. I mean, rounds of votes, folks, where they were trying to get some of the more far-right conservatives in the party to fall in line with backing Mr. McCarthy. And as a result of that, there was a lot of wrangling, even a little bit of pushing and shoving on the floor of the Congress, and so much more. So let's check in with Professor and Dr. Jason Nichols to give us the latest around the implications of this, and more importantly, how does this whole situation play out? As we saw that situation coming out on the GOP side, and then it looks like there is a little bit more light at the end of the tunnel on the Democratic side as they move forward in electing their first Black congressional leader in Hakeem Jeffries. Doc, good to see you once again. Dr. Jason Nichols of American University. Always a pleasure to talk to you, brother. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Farajii. You already know you're my brother. It's good to see you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's talk about this, Doc. I want to talk about, first and foremost, the madness that happened all of last week that led us up to this moment. Very, very late Friday night, going into Saturday morning, we heard the news that Kevin McCarthy was, in fact, elected. Some people say that this was a real blow to that man's ego. That's what I always think, that, at the end of the day, it took you this long for people to say, okay, we like you. But more importantly, this speaks volumes about not just with a GOP and democracy, this speaks volumes about race issues and the idea of representation. We talked a little bit about last week, Mr. Byron Donalds, the other Black GOP House representative, and how his name had come up. Even though he did not get as many votes, there was a call by Representative Chip Roy who said, hey, Byron Donalds is the future, could be the future of the GOP, considering where the country is going in. But now we're seeing that didn't happen. But it did bring up a bigger conversation that the GOP has, a bigger problem, that the GOP needs to see more diversity in its ranks. Let's talk about this. What do you see, Doc, in terms of the impact and the implications of Kevin McCarthy being on the House Speaker, juxtaposed to Hakeem Jeffries on the Democratic side?
Well, I think it tells a whole lot of the story. I think I read that Meet the Press just put out the numbers for the 118th Congress, and the Republicans are 85% white, or 85% male, 89% white, and 99% Christian.
Hey.
And,
wow.
I would honestly use a phrase that one of their members actually used about being Jewish, where he said, "I'm Jewish." I think a lot of them are Christian-ish, but either way, this is not very diverse. We're not talking about a very diverse body right here. We're talking about white Christian males. When you're 89%, white male and Christian, essentially, you're only going to get one perspective, and a lot of those people come from really one region in the country, largely from the center of the country. So you're getting really one perspective from them. It's a whole lot more diverse in the Democratic Party, where it's about 59% male, 59% white, and I believe it was 76% Christian. And so you're getting a whole lot more diversity. You're getting religious diversity. You're getting more women involved, and maybe even people who identify as non-binary. So you have a whole lot more diversity. And I think that means that people are going to be looking out for other people that aren't normally represented. And I think that that's a good thing for the Democratic Party. Kevin McCarthy right now, I mean, of course, he is the Speaker of the House, but I wouldn't necessarily look at him as the leader. To be honest, Matt Gaetz is the leader, because Matt Gaetz has a gun, metaphorically speaking, to Kevin McCarthy's head. As soon as Kevin McCarthy does one thing he doesn't like, he will call a vote. And at the very least, even if he wins that vote, which Kevin McCarthy, even if McCarthy wins, he will be embarrassed by having essentially been recalled as Speaker of the House. So he's going to, go in lockstep with the most radical element of the party. And again, Matt Gaetz is trying to play this off and make it seem as though he's the real populist here and he doesn't take PAC money. And, that is true. But at the same time, every time they had a vote, he sent out a fundraising email. He was trying to basically raise funds off of all of this. So a lot of this is about money. A lot of this is about popularity, and it's certainly not about the American people. And we're not seeing diverse representation. So there's only one America that they really want to represent, and not represent people like you and me, Farajii.
Absolutely. That's an interesting piece that you said about Matt Gaetz having a gun to his head. But I truly agree with you that he is going to be the thorn in Kevin McCarthy's side throughout this tenure of being the GOP House Speaker. Now, I want to go back to some other numbers. You quoted some numbers. This is what I saw. This is what a congressionally focused research organization put out, Legistorm. And this is something that NPR News had posted, where this conversation really comes from, this idea of race and representation. Take a look at this, folks. That NPR put out this piece saying that the idea of authenticity and who best represents diverse voters' interests is often a fraught political debate. According to Legistorm, a congressionally focused research organization in the 118th Congress, 70.9% of members identify as white, 12.6% as Black, 10.5% as Latino, and 4.1% as Asian American, Pacific Islander, 0.9% as having ancestry from the Middle East, and 0.9% as Indigenous Americans. And one of the things that was mentioned by looking at these stats is this comes from Professor Audrey Gillespie, who is a political science professor. She said, I think what has been interesting over the course of this debate is how both the Democrats and Republicans have invoked descriptive representation. She said, when the Republicans have invoked it, they are touting the gains that they have made in descriptive representation, which are real. But I think it's obvious if you just look at the makeup of the room and you look at who is standing up on each side, that one side certainly has more descriptive diversity than the other. My question to you, Doc, is based upon these numbers and based upon this analysis by Professor Gillespie, is how do Black folks not get caught up in just talking or having conversations about descriptive representation or even physical representation where we can move past that and now start talking about making some actual gains. Because I don't think it's enough to just say, oh, we got black people, we got more black representatives on this side or that side. Now we're looking at that the issues that are facing Black America and all of America requires people to make some gains. So how do we move the conversation along from representation to actual gains?
So first thing I want to do is I want to give Black people some props, because I think we've always been having that conversation. I can tell you here in my state, in Maryland, we've had Black candidates who Black people didn't agree with, and Black people didn't vote for them. Whether it's Michael Steele, who ran for Senate, I believe, and didn't win because people in Prince George's County and Baltimore City did not vote for him. The same thing, Alan Keyes ran several times and would lose to crusty old white guys. Why? Because Black people agreed more with the policies that the white guys were going to put forward. So I think Black people are not as fooled by just putting a Black face up there as many white people believe they will be. Black people know what it is that they want, what it is that they stand for, and are not necessarily going to be like, oh, this is why you didn't see large scale applause about Byron Donald, because they knew Byron Donald doesn't represent what many African Americans want, even just because he's an African American guy. No one would ever challenge his Blackness. We're just saying that he's not representing the kinds of things that we want for our communities. And I think that's why you didn't see this, this large sea of applause because he got nominated. And by the way, we all saw how quickly that dissipated. He got nominated in one of the 15 votes, and then they moved on to other people. Some people voted for Hearn, some people voted for Trump, to be Speaker of the House. So it didn't last very long. It was clearly a political stunt. And they've done this over and over and over again, whether it's Herschel Walker. Whenever there's a Black candidate on the Democratic side, Republicans put up a Black person. So, it's Herschel Walker. Before, it was when Barack Obama ran for Senate in Illinois, they put up Alan Keyes. They literally moved him from one state to another because they were like, we don't have any Black people. Alan, why don't you move to another state and run against Barack Obama? Thinking Black people are really that dense to not see through that. And I think it's really disrespectful to the Black voters who actually know what it is they want. There is some diversity within our community. We're not all unified on some things. Some people want reparations. Some people want, other things. But certainly we're not going to be fooled just with these, identity markers that people think are the most important thing. But representation does mean something. I think that it is not the paramount number one thing for Black folks, but we do realize when you don't have any Black people, you just got that one Black friend, then, obviously someone is being excluded, and obviously Black people are not going to be at the top of your agenda. And the same thing for Latinos and Asians and other groups.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Professor, we're going to continue the conversation with you. Plus, we're going to get some comments from our online culture crew. So, folks, join us in the chat as we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and Black Star Network. And stay with us. More conversation about Kevin McCarthy, race, and representation in the House coming up here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been having a conversation about Kevin McCarthy, race and representation in the House, as we've been checking in with our dear beloved brother, Dr. Jason Nichols from the University of Maryland of the African American Studies Department, to give us his analysis about what we just saw with this past week and the implication that it has, not just on America, but on Black America, and what do we gain from it? What lessons do we learn from it? We want you to join us in the conversation right now. Make sure you post your comments in our chat as we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Black Star Network. And Dr. Nichols, I want to bring you back into the frame. When we look at this bigger picture here, I want to share something else that I saw from Pew Research. This was also a part of the conversation about race and representation. Take a look at this quote here, Doc, and then I want to get your analysis of it. According to the Pew Research Center, only about 1 in 10 Black adults identify with or lean toward the Republican Party. And in a Pew Research Center survey in October, only 4% of Black registered voters said they would vote for the Republican candidate for the U.S. House seat in their district, while 69% said they would back the Democratic candidate. So this still comes down to race in this country, right? Like we can't move away from it or move around it. Black folks still will lean heavily towards the Democratic candidate versus the Republican candidate. Do you foresee this changing any time within the next 5 to 10 years?
So that's actually a complicated question. I don't see it changing unless the Republican Party becomes more inclusive with its policy. I think there's an opportunity for it to change. And one of the things that we've seen Republicans do is try to dig in and peel off just a tad bit of Black male support. And I know this is a controversial topic. A lot of people got really upset with me because I wrote this in Newsweek, in a Newsweek article, that Democrats need to actually start talking directly to African-American men. Because if we look at the trends, and this isn't just my opinion, this is I'm looking at literal trends from election to election, we see just a sliver of Black men being peeled off ever since 2008. That's literally facts. So if we don't pay attention to that, then all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in a real crisis, or I think Democrats will find themselves in a real crisis, because Republicans don't need a major swing in Black voters, and that's not going to happen. But if they peel off, and I'll just give you a number, in Georgia, if they peel off 11,780 Black votes.
That's a real specific number, Doc.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Trump said. He said, all I want to find is 11,780 votes. And if you can peel off that many votes where Black men are either disillusioned with the Democratic Party and don't vote at all, which I think is even more likely than them going and voting for Republicans or voting for libertarians or someone else, I think that is a real problem for Democrats. So I think as far as a large swing, you're not going to see that. I think Black women have proven themselves to be steadfast, and I think they've gotten some rewards from the Democratic Party in terms of representation. We're seeing more Black women mayors. That's a beautiful thing. We're seeing more Black women city council people. We're seeing more Black women in Congress. It's a beautiful thing. I do think that people around notice that there's a small amount of black men every election cycle.
That's true.
To peel off. And I think that could be a real problem for Democrats if they don't start specifically calling them out. Even though I will say, again, I want to be clear, black men are the second most loyal demographic for the Democratic Party. And black men are also, we get blamed for everything when an election doesn't go well. But black men, in terms of men, it's not even close. Most men who are non-black vote Republican. It's black men that are keeping Democrats in part in the position that they're in. It's certainly not white women. You can do all the abortion talk you want, and white women in many cases are voting with Republicans. It's black men and black women, black families, black communities that keep Democrats in the position that they're in, which is a relatively strong one right now. And but I still warn that there is that little sliver that can get peeled off every election, and eventually that can turn the tide.
All right, let's go to our online culture crew. Real Brooklyn, check it in, my guy. You said in order to have diversity in the parties, they need to stop bashing each other and making each other the reasons why we have not progressed in our thinking. Individual homework needs to be done. Yeah, I agree. And, I often hear, Professor, where people say, the bickering back and forth, the partisanship is not good, that most Americans would rather see us work together. How true is that?
I think there's some truth to that for some people, because things don't get done. But I think right now we are so polarized, and that was ushered in by, I think it's always been that way, but ushered in even more by the Trump era, where we are so polarized, where literally there's a large portion of Republicans who don't think Democrats win any elections, who literally think that Democrats are, kidnapping children, and they're running, pedophilia rings, and they're kids in the bottom of a pizza shop. Like, that's where we've gotten in the discourse. So there are certain times where you really can't negotiate with those kinds of people. You can't negotiate with someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's, taking pictures with white supremacists and believes in Jewish space lasers. You can't negotiate with some of those people. But there are things that we can come together on. And I would argue that the Biden administration has done a relatively good job with that. We got infrastructure done on a bipartisan manner, something that the Trump administration was unable to do, that this country badly needs. We've gotten a couple other pieces of legislation that have been bipartisan that have been really important for the American people. So I think it is possible for us to start working together, Democrats and Republicans and nonpartisan or independents, everybody working together. But don't think that's going to happen on every issue. And I think, honestly, that's actually a good thing. We don't want to work with certain kinds of people or people that are going to damage other communities.
Come on, Doc. All right, we got about 30 seconds, but I want to get your take on this because I think this is pretty interesting. Shalenda checked in and said, former President Trump on Monday urged Republicans to stake out primary challenges against Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, representative out of Kentucky, and other GOP senators who vote with the leader on his platform. What the thing I think about this Trump factor is that Kevin McCarthy actually said in an interview he thanked President Trump for his undying support. And it's interesting that Matt Gaetz, who is the Trumper, one of the most vocal Trumpers in the House, is going to war with him when they're seeming they seem to be on the same team when it comes to Trump's, alliance, Trump's support. Why? I mean, how does the Trump factor play into it? And how did that happen when they're going against each other, even though they're both vying for the support of Trump?
So I think one of the things is that Trump was incredibly powerful. And again, shameless plug, I wrote about this as well. But Trump was really powerful. And we all remember that within the Republican Party. If you went against him, you got battered into submission. We saw that with Ted Cruz, where he literally had to bow his head. And, you know, as a married man, I can tell you, you call my wife ugly, we're never cool. You know, I think I've grown to the point where I'm not going to go, you know, I'm not going to go full Maryland on you, but we're
go
not
full Maryland. Go full Maryland.
Maryland, you know what I'm saying? We're not cool. But Ted Cruz had to bow because of the former president's Twitter, bully pulpit. He would have the trolls after you. They would call you all kinds of names. They would harass you. And a lot of people were afraid of that. But what we saw with this Kevin McCarthy saga was Lauren Boebert got up there and she said, yeah, I got a phone call from the former president, but I'm still not backing down, you know? And she actually said, hey, I'm going to tell the former president something. Tell McCarthy he doesn't have the votes. And that was a really striking moment to me because it said, look, I'm not scared of you. I'm not backing down to you. This is what our plan is, and we're not really concerned with what it is that you have to say. Now, again, Gates tried to vote for him later just to kind of be like, hey, I'm still your friend. But I think the fact that they were willing to stand up to him, and you're seeing more Republicans willing to stand up to him because a truth social post doesn't have the same bite as that Twitter post does. You know, doesn't have the same followers. He's not doing the rallies. All of that. He's in all this trouble. I think there are a lot of Republicans who smell blood in the water and are not afraid of Donald Trump. And I think that includes McConnell. I think McConnell's not afraid. He's popular in Kentucky. Nowhere else, but he's popular in Kentucky.
Absolutely. Dr. Jason Nichols, who's checking in as always, as he's a professor for the African American Studies Department at the University of Maryland. Doc, thank you so much for joining us today. We're always glad to have you.
You already know, brother.
Thank you, bro. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about jobs. Let's talk about crypto and economic survival. We check in with economist and professor, Dr. William Spriggs. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We want to shift gears talking from politics now to talking about the economy, jobs, crypto, and economic survival. Folks, this is one of the big stories also coming out of Washington, as the latest report that came out from this past Friday showed that there was an increased number of jobs that were new jobs. 223,000 new jobs were made available for Americans across this country. And I want to make sure that and I want to put up this quote that we have of the situation, folks, as we look at where we stand in this country about labor. Now, the conversation that I want to have around this is that how does this affect, of course, Black America, and making sure that we are a part of the conversation when it comes to labor and jobs. All right, let me put up this first piece coming up from the New York Times as they're talking about this situation. And then we're going to bring in our special guest, Dr. William Spriggs, who is an economist and professor. But employers added 223,000 jobs in December on a seasonally adjusted basis, the Labor Department reported this past Friday, in line with economists' expectations, although the smallest gain since President Biden took office. Now, the gradual cooling indicates that the economy may be coming back into balance after years of pandemic-era disruption, so far with limited paying for workers. The unemployment rate ticked down to 3.5%, back to its levels from early 2020, which matched a low last seen in 1969. All right, let me bring in economist and professor Dr. William Spriggs to talk to us a little bit about where we are in the conversation about jobs as the country adds a little bit more than 220,000 jobs in December, and more importantly, the impact that it's going to have on Black America. Dr. Spriggs, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Welcome back to the show. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we look at this jobs report of 223,000, and it says that it's low, but it's the economy is kind of leveling out a little bit more. There was also some talk that the interest rates are getting higher to try to keep inflation under control. What exactly is being said to the American people, sir?
Well, let's take the first part first that you asked about the labor market. 220 some thousand jobs would be a typical month and a sort of a average kind of economic year. So the sense of that headline that we're returning to normal is pretty appropriate. It is slower than the rapid recovery we had from the massive loss of jobs that took place in 2020 when we shut down in order to save lives in the face of COVID. And that drop in employment was bigger than any we've experienced.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have returned to the same number of jobs held pre-COVID, and that the share of Black Americans holding a job has returned to pre-COVID levels. All of that's a good sign that the labor market looks healthy, even though it's not as rapid as it was during this very quick recovery, the quickest recovery we've ever had from job loss. The problem we're having is that the disruptions to the economy have not stopped. We still have a war going on between Russia and Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine, along with the United States, are the largest producers of wheat in the world. Disrupting that production has disrupted global food production. Plus, we had the avian flu. People go to the store now looking for eggs and either can't find them or see that they're at a very high price. That all has to do with the biggest avian flu attack we've seen on American chickens and turkeys. Now, that has nothing to do with the economy, but it has everything to do with the price of goods.
I was going to say that. Right.
And so if you take two of the three biggest grain producers in the world and engage them in a war and keep one of them, Ukraine, which is a major producer of wheat, from exporting, and then you have a food crisis that the whole world is facing. And then, of course, we see those storms taking place at an unprecedented level in California, a state that needed water, but be careful what you ask for. Not this much water and not this quickly. And,
yes, sir.
And the importance of the valley in California to producing fruits and vegetables in the United States. And you can see all the shocks that continue to ripple through the food production process. And the result is that with all of these disruptions, with disruptions to the chips that go into everything that we have, whether it's a car, a refrigerator, a television, a computer, telephone, everything has a chip in it. We had that great shock to our economy. All of those put pressures to raise prices because if there are fewer goods and you have the same number of people, you're going to have higher prices.
And people, well, a couple of things on that, Doc. One is that folks say, like President Biden kind of takes credit for, bringing those levels of job creations, that level back to what like you just said, to a normal space or to a normal pace. Is that the right? I mean, for the American people who we're confronted with seeing all of these prices in terms of the cost of eggs and oil and things seems to be going up. Can the president or any administration take credit when things get down to normal, considering you still have other things that are unnormal or that are abnormal, that are, you're still, like you mentioned, yes, jobs have been created, but now there's a food crisis. Jobs have been created, but now there's flooding in major parts of the country. Jobs have been created. We're getting hit with storms from all sides of the country. So how does should the American people kind of look at all of these things and have a better understanding of what's happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are things that the president does control, which is the shape of the recovery. What was unique about this recovery opposed to previous recoveries, the ones that took so long? The ones that took so long, the result of the policy choices is what made the recovery so long. So in this recovery, we increased unemployment benefits greatly. We gave assistance to households directly. One of the most important things for Black families is that President Biden had a refundable child credit so that every child in America got a child tax credit. Before, the child tax credit only went to those who had a positive income tax liability. Because the majority of Black children are in a household where they get the earned income tax credit, they don't have a positive income tax liability. They get a refund. So the president said and put in place a refundable credit so that all children got the money. And so for Black households, this was a tremendous help because that credit was coming every month. And that $300 made a huge difference in lowering Black child poverty to the lowest level we've ever seen, added with this record low level of Black unemployment, added with the shift of workers from low wage sectors. We're still down 900,000 restaurant workers, even though we have as many jobs in aggregate. So the total number of jobs has returned, but we're down 900,000 of the lowest wage jobs in the economy. So that means people shifted up. We moved 900,000 people out of the lowest wage sector in the economy and moved them to higher wage sectors, including Black workers who made gains in construction, one of the highest wage areas, manufacturing, transportation, and warehousing. So he can take credit for that because the shape of this recovery was that the assistance came rapidly and largely aimed at working people, at people at the bottom. In the past, we just said, well, we'll give some tax cuts, wealthy people start spending again, and after they start spending again, people get employed, and then things will recover. Well, they did, but that took years. And so the current debate that's taking place is trying to put blame on what the president did, claiming that, oh, this is too much, too fast. People have too much money. People have too many jobs, and we need to pull back on the number of people working and how much money people have in the bank. That's the debate that's taking place. So when you hear the Federal Reserve say that, oh, this is these price increases that you are seeing, these price increases are all the result of too many people doing too well, and we need to slow that down. You have to listen to that, right? Because they're saying you did too well last year. Too many of you had a job, and too many of you had too much money.
Yo, you brought in too much money.
Yes.
And now we need to slow it down.
Yeah.
I gotta take a quick pause, Dr. Spriggs. But when we return, I want to talk about that because that opened the door for Black folks to look for alternative means of income with, going into the cryptocurrency space. And I want to get your take on that. And more importantly, what should be the next movement, the economic movement for Black folks? Should we be calling for higher wages? Should we look at cryptocurrency and alternative currency? What will be the next move to ensure our economic survival in this country? So I would love to get your take. And of course, we'll hear from folks that are tuning into the show. So folks, stay with us. That conversation continues with Dr. William Spriggs here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking to economist and professor Dr. William Spriggs of Howard University as we continue the conversation around jobs, crypto, and economic survival. In a few moments, I'm going to take your comments as we're having this discussion. And I'm learning so much from the good doctor about the economy and the impact that it's going to make on Black America. Dr. Spriggs, once again, thank you again, sir, for your time. I wanted to kind of just pick your brain a little bit because we're seeing all of these economic hits. We're seeing all of these things happening in the job market. And I know that one of the big, grassroots efforts is to raise the wage across the country, whether you're talking about minimum wage, whether you're talking about what they say livable wage. And I'm wondering, listening to you today, Doc, is this the fight that we need to be on the front lines for? Is this a conversation about wages? Or do we need to look at some totally alternative economy, like what we're seeing with Black folks going into the cryptocurrency industry? Now, that industry is taking a huge hit as a result of Sam Friedman and others who have pretty much their actions have brought a devaluation of cryptocurrency. But I'm wondering, talk to us a little bit about this alternative way. What's the best course of action for Black workers to take? Is it wages, crypto, or something else?
Well, for Black people, it's always, and for anybody, it's always what's the term of trade. what is the value I get for what I have when I trade? And because the biggest resource Black people have is our own labor, that's the key. Now, we've had huge success in the nation in the fight for 15 and to form a union. And this is shown up in state after state where we won ballot initiatives to finally get the minimum wage above the federal 725. One of the big tragedies of this Congress is having the Republicans in control because they are the ones who have stood in the way of raising the federal minimum wage. In states that are red states, people vote to raise the minimum wage because everybody understands the importance of that. So tragically, while we've won these battles and the minimum wage is going up in several states this month, people will get an extra boost because the wage will automatically adjust because of inflation. But the bulk of Black workers, a disproportionate share of Black workers, still live in states where the minimum wage is $7.25, and that pulls down the wages of all the workers. So we have to engage this fight to get wages up. And as we have seen with the bravery of workers at Amazon and the workers at Starbucks who organized and are negotiating now, there are workers who are willing to brave the fight, join a union, and negotiate higher wages. Those workers in unions, those Black workers in unions, get a bigger boost relative to Black workers who are not in a union when you compare white workers who have a kind of privilege in getting higher wages anyway.
Yes.
And so white workers who are in unions make more than white workers who are non-union, but that gap for white workers is smaller than it is for Black workers. And so it's so important that we be able to bring extra power to the table when we negotiate, whether it's through higher minimum wages or having the option of being able to belong to a union. And so that's essential. On cryptocurrency, I'm so glad that people now see the sham that it is. I hope that forever Black people will bury this as another snake oil. I hope we've heard the last of it.
You say you're so glad for people for folks to finally see the sham that it is, because it was presented as the saving grace, Doc, of our economic survival. What is the thing about cryptocurrency that had turned you off?
It's a naked bet. It's a bet on nothing. Right? I mean, the football season, regular season football just ended yesterday on Sunday, and you hear about parlay bets. Okay, so that's a bet on who's going to get the first down in the second half, who's going to get the first touchdown in the third quarter. I mean, these are kind of silly bets, but they're on something substantive. It's an actual thing that happens, and we all see it happen. Crypto is just a bet. It's just, I bet you this is going to go up. I bet you it's going to go down. What are you betting on? I'm betting it's going up. What is going up? I bet it goes up. What's it? It's just a naked bet. You're betting on nothing.
I'm gonna just let
the only way you make money is you find somebody who's willing to engage in this game with you.
So it's not like some people would say that the dollar is a quote unquote betting on nothing because we're no longer backed by the gold standard. It's really based on the credibility of the United States. Am I wrong in using that as part of this analogy?
Well, that's what people use as an analogy, but it's not really correct because yes, at heart it is that the federal government, because it's their note, will regulate will regulate how many dollars there are and will always honor paying their debts in those dollars. But then so many other transactions take place in dollars. This is one of the problems we have when the Federal Reserve raises the interest rates. People around the world want to hold dollars because then you're going to get more return on your savings because the interest rates in the United States are higher.
Right.
But when they do that, oil is paid for with dollars. Wheat, rice are bought and paid for with dollars. And so the problem is when the Fed does its thing and pushes up the demand for the dollar and people want more dollars, it pushes up the price of oil. It pushes up the price of food to the whole world, the whole world. And so the dollar represents the stored value of so many things that it's more than just, well, people value it because the United States has never, ever defaulted on a debt. It also represents, you know, the way we look at buying oil or other commodities that have value. It represents so many other things than simply the promise that the United States will always pay its debts.
Right. And I think that's the part that some people, and we looked at the numbers and it showed that as of September of 2021, Business Insider put this out, Doc, as we close out. It said 18% of Black Americans overall had invested in, traded, or used a cryptocurrency compared to 13% of white Americans, according to a Pew Research poll of over 10,000 U.S. adults. That Black folks, what that says to me, Doctor, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on this as an economist, but what that says is that Blacks are looking for an alternative means of economic empowerment. That whether it comes from the cryptocurrency space, whether it's coming from some other space, we're not getting it in the wages. We're not getting the jobs that are being offered. We're not making those type of gains that some Black folks are saying, look, man, how do we close this wealth gap that continues to exist between Black and white folks in this country? And so, you know, that's I would, you know, pose that final question to you, sir. Like what is going to help us close this gap? How do we get out of this space of constantly being debtors and consumers and getting into a space of being producers, especially for our people?
Well, you are exactly right. This grasping at crypto, disproportionate to white people, is and was that desperation in the Black community. We saw the same thing before the housing market collapsed in 2008 with the Great Recession, that Black people were willing to do anything to become homeowners. That is it. We are not victims in the way that people want to say that we're victims of things. We don't take a victimhood mentality. Right. We are always seeking agency. We are seeking solutions, and so we do have the mentality that we will seek solutions. It's just unfortunate that we don't always have the best advice given to us, and we're willing to listen to people out of desperation for changing these terms of trade. But some things take hard work, and it took 300 years to generate this wealth gap. And the solution, we would love for someone to give us an instant solution, but we have to continue to fight for higher wages. We have to continue to fight against the barriers that we face to some jobs. We have to continue to get better terms of trade for the places where we do succeed. There's an ongoing battle that's over 100 years old between the artists who generate the content and the people who get fat and wealthy off of the technology that generates it. You know, the current musicians are fighting the same fight that Louis Armstrong fought in the 1920s. This is not a new fight over who makes the money. You want to listen to the music I made. Nobody cares about what platform it was on, right? But who gets rich?
That's it. That's it. Dr. Spriggs, I always enjoy our conversation, so I appreciate you. We certainly would love to bring you back on to continue to discuss other economic matters, but thank you for joining us this afternoon, sir. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Dr. William Spriggs, who is an economist and professor at Howard University, checking in on the culture today. Folks, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's talk about Damar Hamlin and how the NFL has had one heck of a week. We're talking about violence of the sport to showing its humanity. Stay with us. That conversation is up next with Scotty right here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. All right, let's talk about sports, as the NFL has had one hell of a week, folks, talking about the crazy situation of Damar Hamlin, how this young brother who played for the Buffalo Bills had collapsed on field on Monday night. That was exactly 1 week today. A week later, he has officially been released from the hospital and has returned back to Buffalo, seeming to be intact considering the circumstances, and more importantly, continues to be in high spirits, as he has put out a tweet about how much the NFL has shown him love this past Sunday with its array of pageantry around his unfortunate collapse on field last week. And so this has been an interesting week, or a week there has been a much conversation about everything about the violence of the sport, to now looking at the humanity, where we actually heard commentators on air say things like, "I love you, brother, and I'm so happy that you're here with us," as they announce the games. What is going on? I had to bring my man Scotty back on, who checks in from is a sports vlogger, and he's the host of Off Script TV, to give us some insight as to this crazy, crazy week in the NFL. Scotty, my God, thank you so much for checking in as always, bro. Good to talk to you. Look at you.
Good.
What is this?
Stay ready, baby. You know what I'm saying? I stay ready now. You know what I'm saying? I do a little side hustle for my, when my YouTube ain't hitting, I gotta do a little side hustle. What's good though? We talking about Damar Hamlin. What we talking about?
We talking about
what's good, baby?
Woo, okay, I wasn't ready, Scotty. Yo, you got us like, we got to talk first. Okay. Okay, all right. I'm gonna get myself back on track here. Damar Hamlin, our brother, has been released from the hospital, returned back to Buffalo. It's been made official. he put out a tweet yesterday, OMFG, when he saw not only that there was a lot of love around the NFL for him, but also his team, the Buffalo Bills, have officially became the number 2 seed in the AFC playoff picture.
Shout out to Damar.
Let's talk about this. This has been a very eventful week because it really started off talking about player safety, health and well-being, talking about the violence of the sport, and now it's talking about, oh, this has been a wonderful, it's like a humanity tour of some sort. What do you make of this, bro?
Listen, man, it's the nature of PR, right? You know what I'm saying? It's okay. You sell scare, you sell fear, right, to get the clicks, right? And then everybody's hoping, praying, wishing, because it happened on Monday Night Television. The whole world pretty much saw the cardiac arrest and things like that. And then you go into prayers and thoughts, because you can't be the platform that doesn't seem sympathetic to the situation. Right. And then the video and that which we discussed last week about the real issue of the NFL not supporting players in their health care and benefits and CTE and all that stuff. But that has still not risen to the top of conversation. And I also want to bring this point up. And this is the best PR that you can do. Right. The Buffalo Bills are going to pay Damar Hamlin's full contract, because when you go on IR, there's a split. They only pay you half of your contract. Well, that looks really bad in this situation, right? Because then it brings up the situation of health benefits and things like that. So what do they end up doing? They say, you know what? We'll pay you full. Now, mind you, there are other players currently on IR that are not getting this. Did they have cardiac arrest? No. But that does not mean that the injuries that they have sustained that have put them on IR will not carry with them throughout their life. And who's to say they're going to come back and play the sport, right? So when you set, in courtroom and legal talk, it says you set a precedence, right? Now that you set a precedence that Damar Hamlin can get his full contract, if I'm one of them Bamas on IR, you best believe my agent about to be calling into somebody and say, how I get that deal?
Well, let me ask you a question. He was only getting paid less than $1 million, right? If I'm not mistaken.
860. He has a 4-year, $3.64 million contract that equals out to about 860, 870 per year.
So he's going to get now his full contract. He got it pretty much as like a guarantee
for that year. So, so IR, whatever you were getting paid. So if he was getting 860, he would get 400,000, like 420, 430, because now he's on IR. But now he's going to get the full 860 for that year.
So a couple of things. One is, how do you justify that to the other IR players?
I mean, what do you say? He almost died. I mean, that's really all you can say. Hey, he did almost die. Like, you saw it. We all saw it. He almost died. You know what I'm saying? But if it's me, I don't care. I mean, I'm trying to say that I'm not saying I don't care about him in his livelihood. What I'm saying is we all on IR. Now, are you telling me a certain condition has to happen to you for you to get paid? So if you don't have cardiac arrest, or if you don't have a life-threatening, if I don't have to get CPR on the field, then I can't get my full pay? Because this is a slippery slope that you're going to slide down, because once you set a precedence like that, and people are going to bring that up. Why can't I get that? Why can't I get that? And it's life. That's what happens. You know what I'm saying? So, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. All right, so Lori Parks checked in, one of our online culture crew members. She said he has been released from the hospital, and the NFL is still going to pay him his money. This is the question that he might think about. Is his career over after this? Does he still want to play at this point?
It's not even about him. Do the teams want to take the risk? See, that you guys see, we're looking at it. You're looking at it from a
fan's perspective.
You're not looking at it as a business perspective. The business of the NFL does not want to get caught up in some situation where this kid could possibly die on the field. They're not going to put their hands on that. So the NFL teams are going to be very wary to bring him on, knowing he's had that incident and knowing he's had that condition. So he pretty much probably, and I hate to say, has probably blackballed himself because of the cardiac incident that happened on the field. Now, this is the thing he has going for him.
Damn, Scotty.
What's up?
You saying he pretty much blackballed himself for having a cardiac arrest?
Because this is the only, like, if I'm a Farajii, let's keep it a buck, right?
Let's keep it a buck, bro.
Owner,
right?
And you've seen that. How is that good for business? How is that good? One of all, how's that good for business? How's that good for your team? Right? Because somehow, some way, they're going to say, "Did you do all your checks? Did you make sure he was okay to play? Did you get a full health for bill?" Because the liability is always going to fall back on the NFL and the league. And if I'm an owner, and you guys can be however mad you want to be, I'm gonna keep it a buck. This is business. I'm not taking the liability of trying to put this kid on the field to play a football game. Nah. I can find 30 other black kids that does what he do and don't have to worry about them dying on the field. So I'm not taking that liability. I'm not.
Are the Buffalo Bills planning to keep him?
Let me ask you this. I'm gonna ask you this.
Go ahead. Let's go.
If you had 3 accidents, you think Allstate gonna keep you?
Hell no.
The liability goes up. The liability keeps going up. That's why you get dropped from insurance companies if you have too many claims. It's business.
I get it. No, I get it. That's a good point. That's a good point. And that, I mean, damn, bro, I just can't.
It sucks. It really does. It really does. But it's
because he gave so much to the game,
and they won't give it back to him. It's business. It's just like at the end of the day, it's like that's the good PR by. And listen, once again, I'm gonna just call a spade a spade. It's PR by Buffalo to pay him his full salary going out because they're probably not gonna bring him back. And this is the only thing he has going for him. He has a public outcry, right? So if they cut him, then the public outcry is like, oh man, see what they can do to players and see how quickly they can get rid of them, and they don't care about their health and they don't even want to make sure
they'll wait till the end of the season. Well, the season ended now, but they'll wait till the off season.
They'll wait till the story dies down,
right? And then slowly just tell him to walk away.
He'll be a waiver, or they'll probably say, "Hey, we'll pay you to leave. Like we'll pay your last 3 years. You know what I'm saying? We'll give you your full contract. What is it? 4 point? It's what? It's 3.6 million. We'll give you that just to walk away."
Boy, this woo. I mean, look, but I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. And from an owner's perspective, I can see why. You just don't want a 24-year-old with a questionable heart condition to be running up and down your field.
Let me ask you this, Farajii.
Wow.
If let's say the whole offseason comes back,
fact,
Tua comes back, he gets a concussion the first day. How does that look on the Dolphins? You see what I'm saying? The liability just keeps growing with injury. It's always going to fall back on the team because they're going to say, why didn't you save the player from himself? It's always going to fall back on the team. And I wouldn't want the liability. I'm just gonna be real with you.
So as an athlete, you played the sport. How do you have a conversation with a Damar Hamlin saying, look, bro, or with Tua, or with any of those players who have suffered some serious injuries to say, it's over? How do you tell them that at 24, 25 years old, 23, you know what I mean? It's not going to happen.
You know, it's hard for players who've played 8 to 10 years and have to retire because once again, like I told you, this is something you've been working on your whole life since you was probably 10 or 12 years old. And now you're 32 and now you got to go find something else to do. The biggest question I would say is your life, or if you have kids, is seeing your kid not grow up and killing yourself early. Is that worth it? Is that worth not being able to play with your son when you're 40? Is that worth not being able to run with your daughter? Is that you not being able to walk your daughter down the aisle? Is that something you're willing to take for a football game? a football game. And I know people will say, you know, man, I've been working this out, but you have accomplished it, right? You've made it to the highest level. Nobody can take that away from you. But what they can take from you is the future moments you have with your family, with your kids, even in the military. Like, I see my friends and things like that who've served and things like that, who've lost legs, amputees, that can no longer walk with their, like, can't play sports. They were very active and can no longer play sports with their son or daughter. Can't walk their daughter down the aisle. Those moments are big for those guys. But you think about it, like, was sacrificing this for my country worth it? Let alone playing a football game. You see what I'm saying? So I would get older people that have been through this and have gone through it and things that are affecting them, and really try to school them, because you're making this decision not just for now, but for 20 years down the line, when you look back and you say, dang, was it worth it?
All right, let me talk about this point. And you said people probably hate you. Actually, Scotty, folks, my online culture crew, they agree with you. Everybody's saying, you know what, Scotty is right.
I try.
Scotty is right. Like it's at the end. Rashida, I saw your comment. You said Farajii, no love lost, but this is the business. This is not about feelings. Okay, Rashida. Okay, I get you. No, I trust and believe. I understand what all of you, Scotty. I understand what you're saying. It's a hard pill, man. Like, because it wasn't like he caused it. He didn't cause himself to go into cardiac arrest, quote unquote. But then it happened. You see this outpouring of love and support and the well wishes, and then boom, you realize that was just the end of my career.
Quick.
Like, damn.
Quick.
Bro. All right, let's talk a little bit about this whole humanity side of it. Because people were really, when I was watching the games yesterday, I saw love for Damar Hamlin. Everybody, like the coaches, like head coaches, were rocking the shirts and stuff. And some people say that the NFL may be turning a tide in the sense of touching or tapping into the humanity of the commentators, the players. Some of the commentators were getting emotional while calling the games and all of these things. But is this a sign that about the importance of sports in bringing people together and helping us to get through tough moments, that we can dig deep to find our humanity? Is what we saw this past week a sign that really that can be done, that could be accomplished?
I'm gonna give a scenario, because my answer is no, and I'm gonna give you why no.
Okay.
I'm the type of person, right, that if I haven't gone through what you've gone through, I can't relate. That's just me as a person. I try to be empathetic, but I can't relate, right? So, good example. If somebody came to me and said, man, Scotty, my house burned down, I'd be like, dang, that's tough, right? But if somebody came to me and said, my dog died, man, we'd be hugging it out. I'd be probably crying with you. I'm like, man, my dog died too, bro. Because I felt that, right? So this is my thing with this. The way I'm going with this is, when Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee for Black issues, a lot of people couldn't get on board with it because they were like, well, I ain't experienced it, or I don't think that's right, or I don't think that they found the narrative to try to shift it and kind of manipulate what it was, right? The reason people are getting behind this, because everybody's experienced death. Everybody has experienced death. I don't care if you're white, Black, striped, Puerto Rican, Dominican, whatever. You've experienced death and you have seen it, or you know somebody. So that's why everybody can get on board with just being a basic human, right? But if you take the death aspect out of it, it's just too many narratives for people to be like on the same accord and all for humanity, right? Because there's a lot of cases that are going on in the NFL. They always got some in racism, breast cancer awareness. They always got some awareness going on, but don't really nothing come from it. So for me, I don't believe nothing the NFL talks about, because one, it's too many white people running the show, and if they don't fit the bottom dollar, it ain't gonna work. And two, it's hard to get everybody on one accord. It just is. So I always say no to that. I just think there might be a majority. It might be like a 60-40 type thing, or 70-30, but I don't trust nothing the NFL does for an initiative to do anything. I ain't gonna hold you. So if it ain't about making money, the NFL ain't for it.
I'm gonna we gotta take a quick pause. And I'm gonna just ask a question once we get back, because at this point, what I'm seeing, it feels like when you think about the future of Damar Hamlin, when you think about how the NFL handled this whole situation, it just gets me into a space where it's like, man, just play the damn football, man. Like stop trying to be everything to everybody. Just play football, damn it. Like, that's all it comes down to, Scotty. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want my sports team to try to be my moral authority. I don't want my sports team to try to be my activist. I don't want my sports team to be my advocate in race issues. I just want you to play football, bro. Play the sport. Like, you're doing too much.
That's real.
You out of bounds with it. And it becomes really more insulting more than anything, because you're trying to do too much. And I think that's in part because of us as the fans and us who consume the sport, that we're also kind of conscious that we want every level of consciousness to be spilled over. And you know, maybe it's me because I'm getting older, Scotty, but I don't need consciousness, quote unquote, in every element. I don't go to watch certain movies
for the consciousness of it. Yeah,
I know that might be surprising to some people.
Just entertainment. Just entertainment. I feel,
you know what I'm saying? Like Jay-Z said, it's only entertainment. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's real.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't go to boxing and be like, well, it's two black men fighting. Like, which one? What's the politics of the? I'm watching boxing. If I see a black man, a Latino man, I'm gonna be like, man, see, that's what happens. See, the white man wants the black man and the Latino man to go against him because he wants to I mean, like, that's what it is. Like, and I don't know if this is just because, like, NFL, you're doing way too much. Look, I gotta take a quick pause on that. I want to get some feedback from our online culture crew and hear what folks got to say. Folks, am I wrong in this? Like, after a while, do you just feel like the NFL is just simply doing too much for trying to appease too many people? I just want you to do what you do best. Play football. All right, stay with me. That conversation continues up next. As also, we're going to be checking in to have our celebrity interview with Markice Moore in a few moments. So stay with us. A lot to get to here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back. We've been talking to my guy, Scotty, sports vlogger and host of Off Script TV. You can check him out on YouTube and IG. But my guy, Scotty, has been keeping us posted about the developments of the story around Damar Hamlin and what's going on in the NFL. As we've been talking about what a week it has been in the NFL, as we talk about the violence of the sport to how humanity has been played out on this past Sunday's game, Saturday, this weekend's game, and how it will, and hopefully we will see it more in this playoff this wild card weekend and the playoffs games as well. Let's bring Scotty back into the frame. Scotty, I don't know. Man, you killing me, bro. You killing me.
Gotta keep it moisturized, man. Gotta keep it moisturized out here.
But look, real talk. Like, are we expecting too much from the NFL as consumers? Do we want too much? And I'm partly because I don't know if it was because of Colin Kaepernick that activated a certain level of consciousness in us that forced us to say, NFL, what are you doing to promote social justice? What are you doing to protect Black players? What are you doing to giving space for Black needs and concerns, considering that 70 to 80% of your players are Black? I don't know if it was Colin Kaepernick that did that, or because I don't remember us having these conversations prior to Kaepernick. I mean, in mass the way we've been having them.
I don't have, this is the problem I have. I have a problem with the NFL, right? Like the owners, the commissioner trying to do race issues. I don't have a problem with the players standing up.
Right. Okay. I agree with you 1,000%, bro.
Inside of the NFL, you're giving them. So that's where I think we're speaking on, because to me, there's too much Black product not to see it triculate into higher management, and that's with any job, right? That's why we're always looking for Black or Latino men and women to be in the top, the Fortune 500 companies or the S&P. Like, we're trying to find that higher, because you're like, how can you have B-level and C-level executives, but nobody at the highest level in your business? That doesn't make much sense, right? So it's the same thing with the NFL. Is why aren't we seeing, higher levels of Black matriculating through the NFL system when the NFL is produced and pushed by Black bodies? Like, you can say whatever you want, anybody out there, whatever. Black people are the NFL. Let's not play this game, right?
Right. No, absolutely.
So why aren't we seeing them as general managers and executives and vice president of this and vice president of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, in the NFLPAs, yeah, you're seeing that. You got Troy Vincent as the NFL executive, but we should start seeing more Black owners as well. Black people watch football. There's Black billionaires. You know what I'm saying? There's Black billionaire groups and millionaire groups. So why aren't we being a part of the league that we've been building for the last 60, 70 years?
I agree with that. Rashida, again, you pointed out that there should be a discussion about Black head coaches on the field.
Absolutely.
To your point, Scotty, you also mentioned the fact that Black, I agree with those things, right? But what I don't think that the NFL does well is, let's start with what they do well. They know how to create a marketing campaign for the masses of people. What I don't think it does well is actually implementing things within its own structure.
Absolutely.
To necessitate that change, right? You know what I mean? So I would be more, it's like you go to any job. If you work for a major company, the company talk about diversity and equity and inclusion, and your company is talking about respect and all of these things, and you working for the company, but then you still see in the boardroom white faces. And it's like, is the company doing what it needs to do on the inside of the house before promoting it to the outside of the house? And so I that's the part. But the other part for the fan and the consumer, because it's like, now you want us to, like, we're coming into a situation like now it's very public. It's very, very public. You know what I mean? Like, how the NFL operates, how the NFL makes its decisions, who's responsible for what decision. And part of me is just, I almost kind of tune out a little bit, because I'm like, I love football. I love the game. I love watching the game. Yeah. I don't want to see my brothers getting bashed up. I definitely don't want them seeing collapsing on the field. But at the end of the day, I do want to see the sport. And since I live in America, this is the National Football League. This is where we watch football. I want to watch football and not always think about the issue side. Now, I don't know. Maybe I'm just.
Once again, for me, I can't eliminate one from the other. Now, once again, I agree with you. The NFL pushing an agenda, I ain't gonna believe it. But the players never have an issue. This is my
right. I agree with that.
This is what happens when, and this is part of the system. When you have people that don't look like you, they're not going to take your stances seriously, i.e. the Rooney Rule, right? The Rooney Rule was specifically made for black head coaches, and now it has turned into a diversity rule to where as long as it's a woman or as long as it's a Latino or no, that's not how it started. It was a black head coach rule, and now it's morphed into a diversity rule. I can't agree with that. But now, if you had black owners or you had black people in higher administration, they'd be like, no, that's not what it was for. It was for black head coaches. And you're seeing what's going on, how teams are hiring minority coaches and firing them after 1 year. The guy, Lovie Smith, Houston Texans, was there for 1 year. The coach before him was there for 1 year. How is the Texans not being penalized for this? You see what I'm saying? It's just little things like that. The guy you fired, Brian Flores, at the Dolphins after he went 8-8. The white boy just went 8-8. I mean, he's a Latino and white. I don't know what he is. Mike McDaniel. I don't know what he is. He just went 8-8. You see, so it's just like, what's the standard? So things like that. So I think.
But let me ask you a question though, bro. Like in those type of decision makers, and again, it's wrong. But should us as the fans be privy to those decisions? Because when you look at those bigger companies, who said it? And one of our online culture crew just made the point that when you look at some of these other Sandy checked in and said, you're not seeing them make changes just like at IBM or Chase or other corporations. They get positions and sat down. And Sandy, you're right. Like, we're not privy to those things. So I'm wondering, who should we be privy to those things after a while? Because here's the thing. Here's why I'm saying all of this. Until black players, black folks, like black fans, we have a vested interest, i.e. financial interest in the NFL, then can we really complain about, how they're moving, or should we expect to be privy to those decisions? The only thing that we're invested in is our money when we go to the games, when we tune into the game, and when we spend our times watching these games. Of course, producing the players themselves. But you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to figure out where the line is.
Yeah, we should be privy.
Because bro, are we disinvested when we talking about MLB?
Oh, no, because nobody cares about Major League. Well, I tell you this.
Are we disinvested? Okay, let's go to the NBA.
Are we that invested? Because the players are that invested. The players, listen, the NBA is ran by the players. Everybody knows that.
That's a different scenario.
Yeah, because them NBA players, they don't play about their money, and they don't play
about their money. They don't play about. But see, even what's the name? Who and I forgot the commissioner.
You have David Stern. Now you got
Adam. Is it not Adam? Damn, I forgot the dude's name.
That's how irrelevant he is.
But they created a space. See, the NFL has got it wrong. Is y'all want to treat black players like cattle? You won't create a space. In the NBA, LeBron can say whatever he wants, and guess what? The commissioner will be like, "Well, that's LeBron James. I mean, he the face."
But they listen. It's like, it's truly a situation where it's like they the big boys on the block, and you just along for the ride, because the NBA understands without KD, without LeBron, without Steph Curry, if they not happy, this ain't going nowhere.
This ain't going nowhere. And guess what? Guess what they do? Guess what the NBA players know that the NFL's players don't know?
Their power, their leverage. They got the leverage.
LeBron says, we wearing these shirts. LeBron says, I don't appreciate y'all He talking into another league situation.
Yeah. But the difficult part about the NFL is all the bodies involved, right? People say baseball as well, but they got so many minor leagues, they'll drop you down or whatever. But all the bodies involved on an active roster in the NFL, it's like 52 per team. You start doing the math, 32 teams, it gets crazy, right?
Yeah.
But the end of the day is I never have a problem with players sticking up and trying to sticking it to the system, because at the end of the day, They are the product. You're the leverage in the play. Yes, you have an infrastructure that is built around you, but that infrastructure means nothing without the players. You can promote the NFL all day. If I can't see players on the field, what is this? It's nothing. You know what I'm saying? The NFL is absolutely nothing. And the NBA understands that. That's why they have such a good cahoots with their players and the owners. It's a real partnership. The NFL is, I hate to say it, it's a slave mentality.
Oh, no, bro.
Yeah.
We all know that. We all know. And that's the unfortunate part. And that's why I will forever love my brother Colin Kaepernick, because, you know, for him making the stand. But the fact is that you gotta break up that slave mentality. Scotty, I gotta stop it there. But my man, you are absolutely on point. We always enjoy talking to you, man, and we're gonna bring you back to have more conversation. Keep the soul glow glowing, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Just let your soul go. You know what I'm saying? I got
Hey, yo, make sure y'all check out my man Scotty on Offscript TV. You can find it on YouTube and IG. There it is right there, Offscript with my man Scotty. Y'all check him out, man. We bring Scotty on here every week to talk about something related to sports and so much more. Scotty, thank you, sir, for doing the work that you do and being so good for the culture.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you, Farajii. Always, man. Love being on here.
Love it too, brother. Thank you. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's check in with my man, Markice Moore. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, in the final few minutes of today's show, we wanted to have a special conversation, one-on-one conversation with brother Markice Moore. Markice Moore has been in acting for well over 10 years and been playing in various roles from The Walking Dead to Tyler Perry's The Pain. You can now check him out in the Starz hit show, BMF, and we're happy to have him here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. Markice Moore. Markice, good afternoon, brother.
What's going on, man? First of all, we got the times crossed up. I was told 7:30.
Wow.
And I'm outside handling some business, so I was like, I'll join, but I don't know how good my sound is going to be.
Your sound is great. Your
Vegas right now.
Good. You're in Vegas right now. Uh-oh, did we lose
it? We hear you.
There we go. You're in Vegas right now?
Yeah, I'm in Vegas right now.
All right, so real quick, Markice, I know you want to move, brother.
Yeah, this gonna be damn near impossible.
You rocking and you moving around a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this was scheduled for 4:30 my time on the West Coast.
Okay.
That's what I got in my email, 7:30, but we could try to make it work. I'll find a quiet place.
That's fine. That's all good, brother. First and foremost, congratulations on all your success, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, man, coming from the brothers, man.
Hey, man, look, I watch your work. I've watched the shows that you've been on, Walking Dead, The Pains. I've watched BMF, man. These are all quality productions. How would you say your career is going?
I'm gonna try to find a bathroom so I can hear you because I can't hear nothing you say. Where's your restroom?
My man gonna do it in the bathroom. This is how we do it on The Culture, though, yo. I love it, Brian. I love it.
Excuse me.
All right, so why
first time I'll do an interview in the bathroom, hopefully my last. Yeah, I'll be doing interview in the damn men's room. This is crazy. All right, let's see what we can do.
All right, let's do it. Hey, look, man, you got a strong signal though.
What'd you say?
You got a strong signal. You definitely got a strong signal. Everything is good. Hey, it's good.
So what's the deal? Talk to me.
So tell me, how do you feel about your career? 10 years in the game, brother.
Man, I've been in the game almost 18 years.
Oh, brother, please.
Every day to me, every opportunity I get, it's kind of like it's unbelievable. Because when I got in the game, I got in wanting to be a rapper. I never thought that I would be acting as long as I've been acting. I always looked at it as a transition into my music. And I just fell in love with the craft, man. This year, I was blessed enough to do Law and Order, which was one of my favorite shows growing up, and almost like a legendary thing to do as an actor. So to check that off my bucket list as a filmmaker is amazing. This year I've been producing my own films. I got 2 movies on Tubi I produced and directed, one called Mason. Man, it's just been amazing. Like as far as just the opportunities I've been given, I'm blessed and I'm so thankful for them, man.
That is dope, bro. That is dope. Talk to us a little bit about some of the, like with BMF, that's a very, very popular story, especially in Black culture.
Yeah.
Talk to us about how you got involved with that production.
Well, I worked with 50 Cent on a TV show called The Oath back in 2018. And I auditioned for BMF originally for the role of Lil Meech, the role of Meech originally. And then George Pierre was the casting director on that show. And for some reason, I thought George didn't like me because every time I auditioned for him, I would never book. So when I did the audition, I'm like, I'm going to make this my best damn audition I ever did in my life. I went to a studio, got it taped professionally, and I got the call that day. Like, yo, they want you on the show. And it was just an honor, man, working with Tasha Smith, again, one of my favorite directors. And then also coming up in Atlanta, I got a chance to really be in the mix of what BMF had going on. So it was kind of like my way of paying homage to those brothers, because to be honest, if it wasn't for BMF, I wouldn't have had a career in Atlanta as long as I did. But that's a whole other story.
Wow. When you think about what's your process, Markice, when you get new roles, when you look at the scripts, what's your process that you take to get yourself fully engaged?
That's a great question. Awesome question. Thank you for that. My process, I take scene study, because I teach acting classes as well. If anybody's interested in those, you can hit me on Instagram. But my number one thing to do is break down the scene. Before I get caught up in the characters and all that stuff, I read the scene out loud from top to bottom twice. The reason why I read it out loud is because I notice that when I don't read things out loud, I'll allow myself to make mistakes in verbiage and dialogue because I'm not saying it and hearing it out loud. But if I say it out loud and it's wrong, I correct myself. But I don't correct myself when I do it in my head. So I'll read it out loud twice, and then I'll write out my dialogue, scene by line, excuse me. And then next to that, I do this every time, so that's why I know this. Next to that, I write down the emotion associated with that set of dialogue. And then I write like 3 different ways to show that emotion before I even say a word of the dialogue. And then I start practicing my scene and taping it.
One of our watchers are saying that you have great energy and a great aura. How do you maintain that, bro? How do you stay humble in this situation?
God, to be honest with you, really staying connected to God, to my higher power, to Jesus Christ. For me personally, I think that energy is Him in me. There's nothing special about me besides the fact I didn't give up, and I really, really, truly believe that God is the designer of my life and the architect of this building that I'm creating. So I think my energy comes from that, in essence, like that God energy, man. He makes me shine, and I give Him the glory for it. And I think people can recognize that and receive that as something authentic.
You've been in very pivotal roles in your career for Black culture. How do you see yourself in the bigger landscape of Black representation?
Man, that's a great question. Y'all are good with these questions. I wish I was somewhere sitting down. I think I've ingrained myself in the culture, thank God, through just being blessed to be a part of some classic stuff. I think 10, 20 years from now, people are going to look back at my catalog of work and go, damn, he's been a part of everything pivotal in our culture on film and television since 2006, which is true. And I just want to continue in that legacy. So when my time is up, my kids, my family can all look back and feel and appreciate the fact that I put in that work and that it meant something to the culture.
For you are multifaceted, brother. You're a rapper, you're a writer, you're a director, you're an actor. What role do you want us to truly remember you by as you do as you doing this great work?
Just as a creator, I mean, probably more than anything as a producer. I want to produce movies that last past me. And what means I don't always want to be in front of the camera. My production company is called Both Sides of the Camera Studios. And one of my goals is to eventually put other people in the position I'm in and start producing and curating some of these concepts in these films. So I would say down the line, I want my legacy to be known more as a hell of a film producer. You know, I want to do some Marvel type stuff. I love superheroes. I want to play White Tiger in the Marvel project. So that's probably on my bucket list, becoming one of the heavy hitting producers in Hollywood. And I want to do Marvel stuff.
That's awesome. Hey, Markice, I appreciate you, brother. We got to have you back on because I want you to know you got a home with us here on the Culture on the Black Star.
I want to do this again. I want to do this again when I can sit down and really talk.
I would love that. And let's definitely connect. Where are you located? Are you traveling? Like, where are you?
Man, so I live in Las Vegas. Right now I'm home for another 2 weeks. I haven't been home in 4 months.
Wow.
So I'm home for 2 weeks, and then I go back to Atlanta to film a movie I'm producing called Thanksgiving. I wrote it. I'm producing it. Actually, Queen Norris wrote it with me. I'm producing it out of Atlanta. It's going to be funny as hell. It's like Friday type of movie. I can't wait for y'all to see it because the script is so good. And then after that, I'm going to LA to start filming new episodes of a new show I'm on BET called Legacy. Me, Ving Rhames, Lisa Ray, I play the lead in that. It's crazy to hear myself even say that I'm the lead in something. But you know what I mean? It's crazy, boy. But it's happening. So I'll be back in LA filming that. And then after that, I'm going to Miami to film another project. So I'll be back home for a while.
There it is, my guy, Markice Moore. Good to hear from you, brother. May God continue to bless you.
Thank you, guys. Let everybody know to follow me on social media at Markice Moore. All my actors, anybody that want to take acting classes, I do one-on-one acting classes. So just send me a DM and we can go over everything. Love you guys. I appreciate this a lot.
Hey, I love you too, brother. Keep up the great work. And you got one new follower coming from me, brother.
That's love, man. Thank you, guys.
For checking in. My God, Markice Moore checking in in Las Vegas in the bathroom. That's what we do, though. I love it. I love it. All right, folks. Thank y'all so much. I thank all of my wonderful contributors and guests today. Once again, we want to thank Markice Moore for checking in. We want to thank my man Scotty. We want to thank Dr. William Spriggs and Dr. Jason Nichols for providing their analysis and insight. These are the conversations that you get here on the culture. So you never know who's going to show up. But folks, I want you to show up for us as we continue to do the great work. Make sure y'all go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence and show your support financially. Download the app for free. Share the content when we post. And more importantly, let folks know that Black media is here to stay, because your support means everything to the progress and momentum of Black Star Network. So make sure y'all check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Also follow us on our social media at Black Star Network on Twitter as well as IG. And while you're on those social media spaces, follow me. You can find me, The Real Farajii, on IG and Farajii on Twitter. I would love to continue to build with you as we are building the momentum and the movement around the online culture crew. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for my dynamic team, Joel, Keenan, Ariel, and my control room. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, coming at you at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, folks, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.